Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Salon live in dementia researcher communities. Inspired by the intellectual gatherings of the 17th and 18th century Paris, our salons aim to merge the traditional charm of spirited discussions with modern-day interactivity, and inclusiveness. And we're very grateful for you taking time out of your busy days to join us. I'm Adam Smith. I'm the Program Director for Dementia Researcher, and I'll be your salon host for today. I promise it won't always be me. I'm going off to the AIC conference in a few weeks' time when Sam Moxon and Cleona Farrell are going to replace me in the hot seat. And if anybody watching would be interested or like to take a turn at hosting one of our salon sessions, please do drop me a line. We'd be happy to give other people the opportunity to do this. But thank you very much for joining. In this session today, we get practical as we explore the topic of managing feedback from peer review, something that I'm sure many of you watching are going through right now. I know certainly I am. I just sent out a paper a couple of weeks ago, and all my co-authors are sending me comments back now. I suppose that's peer review in the same way. It kind of feels like it, though, given their comments. Anyway, navigating feedback in academia requires a delicate balance of strategy and emotional resilience. I say that because, of course, there's good feedback and bad feedback. And I'm sure we've all been on the end of unfathomable comments where you're convinced that the reviewer is simply wrong. However, it's about discerning actionable insights from critiques while maintaining enough distance not to take comments personally. And today we'll explore whether our current system works, how effectively to handle feedback, and address the notorious challenges posed by reviewer 2. Something we've talked about before on the podcast and in blogs and things as well. So we're fortunate to have 2 brilliant speakers with us today who are well versed in these challenges. First, we have Dr. Audrey Low, a Race Against Dementia Fellow and postdoctoral researcher at the University of Cambridge. Audrey's research focuses on the role of cerebrovascular dysfunction in dementia, cognitive impairment using multimodal neuroimaging techniques and clinical data. With many publications to her name, Audrey is intimately familiar with the peer review process and its challenges. Hi, Audrey. Thank you for joining us. And look, Audrey's wearing her Salon t-shirt. Just as a top tip, if anybody in the future would like to present on the Salon, you get a great t-shirt to do it in. Thank you, Audrey. And joining Audrey is Dr. Aseel Mahmoud, a postdoctoral research fellow at the University of Exeter. Aseel leads qualitative data collection and analysis and develops program theory. With a growing list of publications and experience in writing grants, Aseel is also well equipped to share insights on managing feedback from peer review. Hi, Aseel.
Hi.
Thank you very much. Are you disturbing your colleagues? We can see them there working diligently behind you. They're going to listen in.
Office.
Well, our format for today, for those who are new in the Salon, basically is that we have a 30-minute live stream where each of our speakers present their thoughts for 10 minutes. They've been given a completely free mandate to interpret this topic in any way they like. So I'm really interested to see what they've come up with. And then this will be followed by a little bit of chat between us and some questions from me. And then our speakers and myself will join you for the remainder of the hour in the online chat, where I'm hoping you'll also share your own personal experiences, your tips. You can ask questions of our speakers as well. So we'll all get together and chat there in the Salon after the live stream. So thank you very much for joining us today. We should just get on with the session, shouldn't we? Thank you very much again. And Aseel is going to go first. Thank you very much, Aseel. So we'll turn our cameras and microphones off now, and you can share your screen, and we'll let you get on with it.
Yeah. Can everyone see the screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So Adam already introduced me, so I'll skip this part and starting talking about the peer review process. So after we all work hard on the data collection and analysis or literature review or whatever type of research, we put all the courage to write a paper, manuscript for publication. It usually takes a lot of time trying to do it, and when you're finally done with it and you're so happy about it, and you just go to the journal, select the journal, press the submit, and starting the waiting process. So while you on the waiting, it's usually goes into the journal editor. The editor will share it with peer reviewers who usually are supposed to be experts in the area of research or the methodology that you submitted. After that, they will get back with their comments to the editor. The editor will come back to you with rejection or accept with revisions, then revise it and will go again to the editor. So it's kind of really long process, but the idea, like, why is this process? Why we don't just go and publish directly in some way? It's about kind of two reasons. It's filtrations of the paper, so only papers with high quality can be published, and also improvement. So those are of a good quality that can be published to improve their quality a bit more, so they'll be suitable for publication. The question is this really achieved? The filtration and the improvement of quality. Unfortunately, there is little evidence on the effectiveness of the current peer review system. It still has some drawbacks. For example, the delays in the publication, sometimes it takes 6 months to publish, or sometimes they keep it for 4 months and they come back with a rejection or major revisions that will take another 2 or 3 months. So the delays is one of the issues that annoying all the researchers. Also, there is limited number of people who are competent to do the review, but in the same time, there is a big number of research output that could be reviewed by them. So not all of the paper are reviewed by competent reviewer. So, but this is the current system. I'm not saying it's not working, it's not effective, but there is little evidence about its effectiveness. Maybe you can share your thoughts after the live stream about this. So the peer review system, who will do the review? As I said, it's experts with knowledge in the area of research. How they do it, it's depending on the journal. So some follow open review or single blinded or double blinded. For the open, it's both author and reviewer know each other. In the open one, the good about it that the reviewer will be open and honest without being disrespectful, so they can't do really comments with kind of putting off the researchers from doing more writing more papers. Single blinded, that only the reviewer identity is blinded, but the author is not. The good thing about it that it's more likely for the reviewer to give honest feedback. Does not mean that in the open one they don't give an honest one, but sometimes if they know that the author know them or something, they will feel a bit try not to, like, they may filter their comments, and some of them may be really crucial to improve the quality of the journal. When it's come to double blinded, both are anonymous, so it's kind of the less biased one because it ensures that the manuscript is being judged based on the quality and not author reputation. But still, some reviewers may put some disrespectful comment or be judging the work in a way that's not the researcher won't like, because they know that the author won't know who did the review. So I know we're talking today about managing the feedback from peer review. Best thing to do is to think about the comments that will come back to you before the submission, not really after not only after the submission and receiving these comment. So to make sure that decrease the rate of rejection, you need to ensure that you're submitting to the right journal, the right scope. So for example, if your study is about diabetes, it does not make sense to go and, for example, publish it in a journal for engineering or something that's really not related. They were rejected, or another way, the methodology also. Some journals do not accept qualitative papers. Some journals do not accept literature reviews or protocol for studies. So you need to make sure that you're choosing the right journal. Also, well-written, try to submit a well-written manuscript. Mainly try to show the research impact. What's the value of your research? What's your adding for this piece of research? When you first do it, what do you want to add to the literature, to the evidence? What's the impact on practice? What's the impact on policy? Impact on research? Try to highlight it to make it clear so the editor can see it and see the value of the paper. Instead of getting rejected, it will be moved into the peer review process. Other than that, also try to share it with the research team. We always do that for all the co-authors, but also try to peer review it with a colleague of you, someone who does not know about the research. They will really come with the most useful comments about clarity, about everything, because the research team members, they all know about the methodology that's been used. They want to question the data collected, the analysis. They want have a new perspective or scope to add. But when you share it with someone out of the research team, it's really helpful, and it will increase your opportunity for acceptance or move away from major revisions. I'm not saying that major revision is bad, it's still good. So now after the submission, you did all what you can do. You submitted a well-written manuscript. Congratulations. You waited for the journal to come back. Unfortunately, they came with rejection. So some of the rejection, they send it to you with recommendations. These recommendations are really good. It can improve the manuscript. So you will go, for example, if you want, discuss it with the rest of the team, make changes and submit to other journal. Rejection does not mean that the manuscript is bad or you as a researcher didn't do the right thing or your research idea was not that innovative. Not all the time. Sometimes some journals acceptance rate is 15%. So they really and they have a lot of paper submitted, so they can't just accept all the manuscripts that have been submitted to them. Other than that, it might be not that relevant to the journal. So rejection does not mean it's a bad work. For me, when I get the first rejection, I can remember it really put me off, and I regret it now. I left the manuscript for 6 months. I didn't want to look at it. They rejected, oh, it's not good, my research, my ideas, and all the things. But then I found that if they accepted the first one that's been rejected, I won't be happy. After I published the one, after I looked at the recommendations, the advices, I revised the whole manuscript. The way I presented my idea was much better. I know that when researchers read it now, they will get the point that I was doing from the first of that study. So it can be frustrating. I know it's all about the delays. We all have deadlines. We worked hard on it, so we don't like to be the idea of rejection, but it's not a personal thing. And I really now so happy that that manuscript was rejected. I don't want it to be my name. It's the one I did is much more refined, much better. So the other options is to minor revisions or major revisions. Both way, congratulations, take it as an acceptance, but you need to improve the quality for the manuscript. What to do after receiving this minor or major revisions? Usually I tend to assess the reviewer's comments. So for example, with rejection, once I submitted a qualitative manuscript and the rejection was with comments, that's more into looking into quantitative methodology, like the sample size, the reliability, inter-rater reliability. So it's not really relevant. It seems like the editor sent it to the wrong reviewer, or they didn't catch that it's qualitative for some reason. However, it was in the title. So I didn't take any of that comments at that time, just edited the paper and resubmitted to a different journal, and it went fine and it was accepted. So can I assess the reviewer's comment? Yes, you can. The reviewers are researchers from different levels of experiences. They don't have to be right all the time. So after you assess their comments, you know how to respond to it. Also assess the length of the comments. Is it really detailed? Some detailed comments, like when they come to you with 2 A4 pages of comments, it seems that they read all the manuscript. They did a great job with their review, and they read the manuscript and came with nice comments and recommendations and suggestions that you can take. Also assess the emotional tone. So once I received really weird comments on that the whole research team is pharmacists. They think that pharmacists can do this type of research for some reason. However, it's on asthma care, and it's related to like what pharmacists can contribute to asthma care. So I'm not sure why we could not do it. But the reviewer, I don't know. I don't know why, but it was not really relevant. And the other reviewers had really different point of view, but this reviewer had this short paragraph explaining that pharmacists can't do this type of research. Did I take it into consideration? No, not at all. It's more of kind of emotional thing dealing with this reviewer. Other than that is, does their comments support their decision or not? Because sometimes it's really long, many comments, but ended up with a decision of minor revision, or it's really short, but go into major revision, or major revision with short comments and nothing about the methodology. It's kind of but anyway, it's okay as long as you get minor or major. Does not really make any difference. It's all about improving the quality of the manuscript. So go with it, and always assess the reviewer's comments in the beginning before doing any response. One more thing, I've had a read of some references about the peer review process, and if there is any data on their effectiveness. And I also talked to, we all know about this reviewer 2 idea that they are always come with comments that can be really harsh, intensive, complicate things and stuff like that. But when it comes to evidence, there is these popular beliefs surrounding reviewer 2 may be unfounded. So I found this research paper where they went and reviewed the comments for the second reviewer and compared it to the other reviewers 1 or 3, and there was no significant difference So still reviewer 2 can use the word please, can make nice comment, and reviewer 2 also, and reviewers 2 sometimes in the beginning of the review say thank you or showing interest in the research. So in terms of research, it's unfounded. However, you should know that this paper was did this statistics only on one journal. So maybe it's the journal process, or they have some kind reviewer too there. So yeah. Also tell us what you think about this beliefs about reviewer too. I think now I should stop. I waffled a lot.
Thank you, Aseel. That was really good. That was fascinating. And do keep your comments coming in the chat. I read there was an article published on the LSE Impact blog earlier this year that did an analysis. Somebody from the Sorbonne did an analysis of feedback from of peer review, and apparently you need 947 words in a piece of feedback for it to be the most constructive. That felt like a lot. Like 947 words sounded like a lot for me, but apparently that was the optimum number of words to result in the best outcome. Do you like lots of feedback, or do you prefer it when do you have a preference? I guess I don't know. It's obvious, isn't it? I mean, you don't want a lot of feedback. That means it was perfect the first time around. How do you feel when you get your feedback back and there's lots of comments as opposed to very few? That was to you, Aseel.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, I thought you for the chat.
No.
You want,
well, I mean, so I have put a question.
Yeah. In the beginning, I used to like when I see a long feedback to put me off, but then I found that they really read the whole manuscript like line by line. They really care about what they're doing. They're really interested in this piece of research. And the best thing I did is to be in the peer reviewer shoes, like go and do reviews myself. I learned a lot of it. So when I'm really interested, I'll go read it all and make comments on everything. Not because I want to frustrate the researcher, not at all. Not because I want the editor to reject it or something. No, it's not that. I really like it. It's really good piece of work,
I agree.
and we want to improve it. It should be published, and it should be published in the very nice way. So we all get this levels of feedback, and what I hate is the feedback, like it's really intense with 3 sentences that you don't really understand what they want from you. So there is something wrong. They pointed something, but no one knows.
Absolutely. Once you get over that kind of initial kind of shrug of, oh no, look at all that. Look at all those comments. I think once you start going through and then you go, oh, this isn't too bad. I think that's usually been my response is kind of a little bit of a sigh and then going, oh no, and then I'm going to set that aside and come back to that later, and then hopefully when you start going through, it's not completely trashing your research or suggesting that you need to redo it all. I'm going to leave it there, and Audrey, invite you to share your screen and do your talk now.
Sure. Thanks, Adam. I hope this works. Is everyone seeing this in the right screen?
Yep, we can.
Okay. All right. Yeah, thanks a lot, Aseel. I thought that was really helpful in moving into what I'm going to be talking about. So I guess I'm going to share my experience and how I've dealt with peer review in general. And so I guess it's useful to just start with this track record. So I do record what happens to every manuscript. And, you know, in all the first authored papers that I've had, you know, of course, many of them are DAS rejected in the first instance, maybe aiming too high or something, but most of them do go through peer review. I've only had one ever that's been accepted without revisions. But the good news is that those that do require revisions, you know, most of them are rejected eventually anyway. I've only ever had one that went through peer review that wasn't accepted eventually, even after 2 rounds of revisions. So I guess once you do receive your comments, you know, what do you do? I guess, you know, the first thing, it seems like, okay, just hunker down and start revisions. But I think as Adam alluded to, there there are a couple of steps before that, things like composing yourself. So as Aseel said, first of all, yeah, congratulations, because most papers don't make it through the editor's desk at all. In fact, Elsevier says the rate is about 70%. 70% of people get rejected at the editor's desk. So do feel good about that, and take this as a chance to improve the manuscript further. So this is also kind of a way to avoid burnout for me personally, because this might not seem very useful at this current point. It feels like you should just be working, but this is kind of something that I do for myself, for future me, as a way of avoiding burnout. And just want to do a little plug for Dementia Researcher as well, because they recently published this podcast, which was really useful on burnout. So I highly recommend you take a look. The QR code is there. So after I have some fun, feel good about myself, I do a casual read. And the important thing is that I don't immediately start on it. So at this point, I know I'm not going to start on my revisions in this same session. I'm just going to do a casual read, let myself feel whatever I'm going to feel, and then I step away. Most of the time, you disagree with something the reviewer said. So I rarely start working on it immediately unless things are really minor and straightforward. And just this time allows you to process things. And I think it's useful because, you don't want to immediately start writing up your revisions in an emotional state, because reviewers are going to be able to tell. It's going to sound more adversarial, more defensive. And, when future you comes back to read it later on, you are going to see that in your responses as well. And you're not going to want to sound like that. So you end up changing it. No, save yourself that time. Just, write it when you are in that rational state. Just remove the emotions from it. So I guess that's this positive psychology founder, Marty Seligman. What he says is, you're not responsible for your first thought, but you are responsible for your second thought and your first action. So, whatever it is, let yourself get past all your first thoughts first, and let your response be something that you actually will be using in future and will be useful. So, at this time, obviously, it's not a complete waste of time. You are thinking about it. So when you actually do give it a comprehensive read later on, you do have more clarity already. And in some cases, you have so many comments that it just gets overwhelming. So what I like to do is to consolidate everything. So, I'll highlight things into 3 categories so that I have an overview and know what I can work on immediately. And it's just good to have a sense of the amount of work needed. So the 3 categories are generally what actually does require additional analysis, things that I can't do anything about, maybe, things to do with research design. And, you just have to explain to them that, this is something in a design and you can't do anything about it. And the third one is things that you don't really know much about that you need someone's help with. For example, when did the study open? What date did it open? Things like that. So at this point, first thing I would do is to look at the things that I need help with and send emails to anyone who can help me with it. So you want to do it early on. You don't want to go through, just line by line, and then suddenly at the last comment, you're, 1 day away from a deadline, and you realize, oh, I need help on this. You need to email somebody, and you email them, and they're on leave or something. So just remember that these people need time to respond to you as well. Maybe they need to ask somebody else. So do this as early as possible, so that you can wait and then just include it later on when they reply. And then I actually start working on my comments. So just working along the highlights that I've already done. All right, but I guess how do you do it is what you probably came here for. So to do that, I thought I'd let you learn from my mistakes in a true or false game. So it's not going to be a poll or anything. Just have a think about it, because I guess I don't want to be prescribing anything, telling you something without you having to think about it first. And for those watching on the recordings, feel free to pause if you need more time, but I'm going to go pretty quick during the salon, just so that we have more time for discussion later on. Right. Okay. So the first statement: all reviewer suggestions should be accepted. True or false? So this is something that I believed at the beginning to be true, but you know, it's not actually true. You don't have to accede to every request. It is okay to say no. As Aseel said, you know, sometimes you don't get someone who is an expert in your field. In fact, maybe you are the person who knows the most about this topic. So it's okay to say no. Just explain why you didn't make the change. And personally, sometimes if it's something small, for example, you know, can you change this chart to include this and that? And if I don't agree, even if it's a small thing like that, yeah, I would just say no. So personally, what I'll do is I would try to do as the best as I can to, you know, do what they said, what they suggested, and then I might include it in my response to them, but not in the manuscript. So it's, you know, if it's not too much work, but this is just to kind of show them that, you know, even after including all these raw data points, you know, yeah, you can see that it's just not ideal, doesn't add much information. I'm not trying to hide anything. So, you know, it's just that your suggested edit doesn't really add any value in this case, because, you know, the point of the peer review process is to be constructive and to make it better. So you don't want to, you know, morph your paper into something that is completely unrecognizable, though it happens a lot, of course. Next, responses to every comment should begin by thanking the reviewer. So this is something that I did at the beginning. It was very instinctive, and it's something that I've seen other people do as well. But, you know, you don't actually have to respond to every response with a thank you. In fact, like, you know, sometimes I still do. I have to delete it later on. But when you do include a thank you at the start of every comment, you know, it starts to sound insincere. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't thank them. Do thank them, maybe in a cover letter or maybe just at the start of your response to each reviewer, but be genuine. So I guess a good mindset to have is that reviewers, ultimately, they are taking time out of their day to read your manuscript, and ideally, you know, thoroughly and with the intention to help you improve your manuscript to be fit for publication. And, you know, just thank them for that. There's always something positive, even if it's a little bit hard to find. So, you know, if they wrote you a super long review, 20 pages or so, you know, you can respond. Thank you for taking the time to provide a thorough, comprehensive review. Or like if they suggested something that's already in your manuscript, you know, your response could be simply, yes, that's a good point. It's an important point. And this is something that we have tried to address in page 10, and then, you know, give them the line or whatever. Next, responses should be as concise as possible. So yes, this is definitely true. It is quite difficult sometimes because you start writing and, you know, things just get longer than they need to be usually. This conciseness doesn't mean giving a scant or incomplete or vague answer. Basically, it just means, you know, finding, again, not going beyond what you need to do. If you do need 10 lines to respond to a comment, then by all means do that. But ask yourself if it really is necessary. So if it's time to get really long, look at it. Just read back. Are you repeating yourself, or, you know, are you digressing? Are you including things that they didn't ask for on some completely unrelated point? So, you know, it seems like you are being really hardworking in responding, but at the end of the day, as the person that is reading it, it's gonna just be really hard for the reviewer to follow your train of thought. And I'm sure you have a good point that you're trying to make, but making it too long is going to obscure that key point, the thing that you actually want them to take away. And finally, if I feel that a reviewer's feedback is biased or unprofessional, I can contact the journal editor to raise my concerns. So yes, if a reviewer is unfairly harsh, dismissive, or clearly biased, it is appropriate to raise this with the editor, because it is the editor's job to settle disputes and to ensure the peer review is being constructive and fair. So you're basically just trying to help the editor do their job better. But of course, be prepared to justify yourself and be objective when you do so, without sounding too defensive. And I guess this is where it's important to, do that compose yourself stage, because you don't want to end up being hasty and sending an email that sounds too emotional or defensive. It just doesn't, it's not good form, I guess, and it's not going to be taken very well if you don't provide objective evidence of, how they're being unfair or biased. Personally, I would consult a couple of people, supervisors would be my first go-to, co-workers. You can even ask people who aren't co-authors. Maybe that would be even better. They don't have any skin in the game at all. So well done if you got all of those answers right, because yeah, these are all things that I had to learn along the way. So I guess some of you might want to see what my peer responses look like. This is just what has worked for me, but I like to make my things as clear as possible. So I use things like structure and things like that. What makes it easy for a reviewer to find your comments. So I start with labeling each comment with the reviewer number and the comment each reviewer makes. So R12 refers to the first reviewer, point 2, and then I will include it as a comment in the revised manuscript after making the change, just so that if they want to see where I put it, or to confirm that I did make the change I said I made, they can just do a Control F, R12, something like that. But of course, not everyone wants to do this, so I also do include the snippet here below. So after I say a little bit of things, I do include where it is and what I included, in case they don't want to go through the trouble of opening the manuscript again. So this is just what my peer review looks like, what's worked for me. Just to summarize, yeah, pretty proud of the alliterations that I managed to come up with. But basically, just remember to celebrate, because you've made it past the most difficult part. So do take some time to celebrate. Do a casual read, compose yourself, and then take another comprehensive read. If you need to, go back and compose yourself again. But eventually you'll come back and consolidate everything, find out help you need, organize yourself, and then start writing when you are in a rational, non-emotional state. And in terms of the principles of your peer review and responses, just make sure that it is constructive, it's concise, and it's complete at the same time. So this is just my approach, and of course, a reason I'm here is because I want to hear the tips that you guys have as well, because everyone has different approaches, and this is just what has worked for me. So looking forward to the chat.
Thank you, Audrey. That was brilliant. And do you know what? You answered so many of my questions, because I've already got questions in there about how you approach certain things, and you answered all of them.
Great.
But I'm conscious that I want to get the opinions of those who are also here in the salon. But I'm going to give you. I've got 3 questions here that I'm going to ask you both to answer. So. We've all come across this, but what strategies do you use to address contradictory feedback from peer reviewers, which I struggle with, I'll admit. Aseel, why don't you take that question first?
So it's a bit of kind of hard to do, but as I said, first I go assess the comments. So the one I accept, I'll accept them. Those that are contradictory and I don't accept, I'll try to be nice enough. Tell them that your point of view is right, and like sometimes I say if I thought of this before doing the research, it could have done some changes. But because we followed this, for example, this methodology, blah, 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 so we can't get to that point. But I'll keep it in mind for future research. So it will be nice, even if the reviewer didn't like it, the editor will appreciate it because it's kind of balance between the two. And I did that, and the paper was accepted, so it sounds good.
It is tricky, isn't it? I think I've had,
Yeah.
I've had a paper before where one of the reviewers has said, "This is great, I love this section," and then another reviewer's asked for that section to be completely redone, and you're going, "Well, hold on a second, whose opinion here trumps the review?" I'd be interested for anybody in the chat to hear your views on this. I think I usually try to, in the feedback, highlight that they've contradicted each other and explain why I've gone about this approach, or then change it. What about you, Audrey? Have you had that situation?
Yeah, I mean, I would do what you said, actually, Adam. So first, I kind of look at which one I actually agree with, which one I'd be able to defend to the other reviewer, because I can't just, I obviously can't do both things. So the one that I can explain better and agree with fundamentally is the one that I would take.
Yeah. This is just to add to making sure that this is a lively debate. Do you what do you think are the current problems with the peer review system? Audrey, you can go first on that one.
I think Aseel brought up a couple of them, actually. I never knew that there was stats on how peer review doesn't help. And I guess these days, well, I feel like it just takes longer and longer each time the journal goes out to look for peer reviewers. I think it's just a case of people not being remunerated or rewarded or recognized for this work, because it is so essential, because every paper has to be peer reviewed, but nobody is being paid to be a peer reviewer. So it's not great.
I think there would definitely be. There's also, I mean, I think, how do you feel about the question that's been raised before about anonymizing things more? I mean, certainly that's come up in grant peer review, hasn't it? Not so much in papers as much. Have you got any opinions on that?
I think it's good for making people accountable to what they say, but yeah, I am a supporter of open peer reviews, because people, if you're at a conference and you're going to ask a question, that everyone knows who you are as well. And I guess it's mostly never about saying something that is too harsh, because if it's just too harsh, then it's a matter of tone. You can manage that.
Maybe a disclosure afterwards, like once it's finalized and accepted, then you get to find out who the reviewers were. I think some journals actually do that. I've seen that. Yeah. So here are some stats. We're gonna draw time on here because we have slightly overrun, but it does still leave 15 minutes for chat. So we'll join you there in a few seconds. So according to a survey publishing Research Consortium, 90% of researchers do believe that peer review improves the quality of their papers. So everybody does still mostly agree that it serves a purpose. A study from International Journal of Behavioral Nutrition and Physical Activity found that the average time for peer review is 17 weeks. That's the average time it takes to collect in all the peer review feedback. And 30% of all research papers are rejected outright by journals without ever getting to peer review. That's almost a third. That feels like it's right, but it seems quite high. So those points you both made about making sure you pick the right journal, that you've pitched it right, that your paper is right in the first place, is good. And research by the American Society of Cell Biologists suggests that only about 8% of reviewers respond and provide feedback within a week. Most take 3 to 4 weeks. That doesn't seem unreasonable. I mean, a couple of weeks, right? If you agree to do it, does a month sound? How long should you be given? Anyway, we're going to draw the live stream element of this to a close now, and we're going to move over into the chat. We're going to press play on a little bit of background, easy listening music while you do that. While I'm still here, we're going to take the opportunity to remind you that I know something else, if you're in the UK, something else is happening at 8 p.m. this evening. That might be on television, but if you don't want to watch the football, we do have another salon session this evening on reproducibility, which is another important topic in research. So please do join us at 8 p.m. this evening, and do go to the Dementia Researcher's website as well, where we've got lots of blogs and articles on how to deal with peer review, the benefits of getting into being a reviewer at all your career stages, and lots of resources. Thank you so much, Audrey and Aseel. You're brilliant talks as ever. And if anybody's got any comments or questions for Aseel, we'll pick those up in the chat now. And of course, you can find them in the Dementia Researcher Communities app, where you can message them separately as well, or keep this conversation going. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Adam.
Thank you.
We'll